Hi everybody, Movie Beer Next Door here, and I'm back with another Bond review. This time, it is The Man with the Golden Gun. This film was from 1974, directed by Guy Hamilton, and it stars Roger Moore, Christopher Lee, Britt Ekland, Maud Adams, Hervé Villechaize, and Clifton James. Now, in this film, cool government operative James Bond searches for a stolen invention that can turn the sun's heat into a destructive weapon. He soon crosses paths with the menacing Francisco Scaramanga, a hitman so skilled he has a 7-figure working fee. Bond then joins forces with the swimsuit-clad Mary Goodnight, and together they track Scaramanga to a tropical isle hideout where the killer for hire lures the slick spy into a deadly maze for a final duel. Alright. I'm gonna get this out of the way. This is my least favorite of the Roger Moore films, and if this film wasn't in the series, I'd say that Roger Moore has a nearly perfect record. I don't hate the film. I think it's okay at best. And that's mostly because there are a couple decent performances and there's some really good set design, and it's a well-made film. It's a well-made film that's a fucking mess. Then we get to the actors. Roger Moore's James Bond. Again, like I've said multiple times, he is my favorite. In this film, he is not. This is the worst of his films performance-wise. Easily. There are people who will say A View to a Kill. I disagree with that. I actually quite like View to a Kill. But his performance in this suffers because they give him uncomfortable shit to do that doesn't gel with his version of the character. Even with his version of the character portrayed in Live and Let Die, he didn't really slap around any women. I don't remember him doing that. But, maybe Gloria Hendry? I can't remember. But in this film, it just comes off so uncomfortable. Not because I'm like, oh, Bond is sexist and all that, because he's not. It just doesn't fit with his version of the character, who is a more, oh, I'll get information out of women by sleeping with them instead of slapping them and then sleeping with them like Sean Connery does. And it just feels off here. His entire performance feels off. He feels kind of wooden, and it's sad to say because, again, he's my favorite Bond, and it sucks to see him in this film. Christopher Lee is Scaramanga, Francisco Scaramanga. He has a very interesting setup for a villain, but in my opinion, they don't pay off. You've got a very interesting setup, a villain who you're supposed to think has something against Bond and is gonna, like, try to kill him because a contract's been put out on him, and then that turns out to not be the case. So there's really no motivation for this villain to kill Bond. At the point where he finds out that he's not being hunted by Scaramanga and Scaramanga's not hurting anything, really, it kind of becomes pointless. And yeah, Christopher Lee's good. He's good in the role, and he seems to be enjoying himself. But his character comes off kind of pointless. As does Mary Goodnight, played by Britt Ekland. Possibly the most useless Bond girl up to this point, and by useless I mean she's supposed to be an agent that's helping Bond, and she does nothing. She literally does nothing to help him during this. The most she does is get kidnapped, and then the thing that she stole from the bad guys to get to the British government is just taken from her. She literally does not belong in this film. She's just there for eye candy. And I'm not trying to be all feministy. It's just that a lot of the Bond girls before this at least had a purpose. At least Solitaire had a connection to the villain that was interesting, and I thought could have been played up more, but I still found it more interesting than this. Maud Adams is Andrea Anders. She should have been the main Bond girl. She was far more interesting. It was kind of a similar thing to Domino in Thunderball, the whole kept woman thing. She's being held against her will. If she ever tries to escape, he'll kill her. But here, I bought it because Maud Adams is a great actress and she really sells it. And I really, really, really wish that this film would have been rewritten to just get Mary Goodnight out of the entire film and have Maud Adams be the main Bond girl. She's so much more interesting. Hervé Villechaize as Knick-Knack. He is the butler of Scaramanga. You'll remember the actor. He's a, I don't know what term I'm supposed to use. Little person, I guess. I don't know. They use the word midget in the film. I don't know. He was the assistant in Fantasy Island. That's what most people remember him from. But I like him. I think he's interesting. I think his character's interesting, that he works for Scaramanga, yet he also kind of wants to take the island from Scaramanga, so he's also kind of trying to kill him. I found that pretty interesting, and I liked him as a character. And Clifton James as Sheriff J.W. Pepper. I was so close to giving this a 5 again. I think Clifton James as Sheriff J.W. Pepper bumped it up a bit this time. I know I said it didn't affect my score in the last film, Live and Let Die, but he's such a shining beam of light in this film, and I love him. He's awesome. He's a fucking Louisiana sheriff written by British people to make American people look as bad as possible, and it's fucking hilarious. I'm not offended. I just think it's really funny. But yeah, Clifton James is awesome. I'd love to give more of his films a watch. But yeah, the title sequence is alright. It has a nice like water puddle aesthetic to it, like images on water puddles, like reflections, instead of like projections from the second and third films. It's reflections, and I really liked that. I don't know exactly what that had to do with the movie, but it still looks cool. And I really liked the song, The Man with the Golden Gun, even though it is ridiculous with how many double entendres it throws into one song. But I really like The Man with the Golden Gun by Lulu. But yeah, this film as a whole it's a mess. There's just like one, Roger Moore as Bond feels very off because this film is playing this film feels like it was meant to have Lazenby or Connery in it. Now, I know that they were like, no, probably not getting Lazenby back, but Connery had for sure stepped off. Maybe and this film came out in a year, and these Bond movies usually after a bit would come out every other year. This one came out the year after Live and Let Die, and it kind of feels like it was rushed script-wise, because a lot of things just kind of get dropped off the face of the earth and they never get resolved. Some things aren't well explained at all. Certain characters don't have much backstory, if any. And a lot of things that just plain don't make sense just never get explained at all. Like, I probably already said that. Whatever. But like for instance, when Bond is at the karate school, his partner, his like Hong Kong cop partner, just kind of leaves him there, and I'm like, dude, you fought off all the dudes to help him out. Why did you leave him behind? It's just shit like that feels like it was just by the seat of their pants. There's a scene where we're introduced to Mary Goodnight, and she's talking to Bond, and Bond's like, a green Rolls Royce, and then she just and he's like, there can't be too many of those in Hong Kong, can there? And then she just starts laughing, and we're never let in on the joke. So much of this just feels so weird. It's so off. That's what this is. This film feels off. Like, yes, 6 out of 10 means okay. I think the film is okay. But I can't help but feel like some interference went on behind the scenes. And it's not like this film could have had a ton cut from it. It's still 2 hours and 5 minutes. It's 4 minutes more than the last film. And the last film didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like shit was cut out of it. It felt well paced. This film does suffer at times from the pacing. Certain scenes go on for a little bit too long, of course. That could go for a lot of them. But usually the ones where there are quite a few that I like that have scenes that go on a bit longer than usual. So I really don't understand what the issue is here. But yeah, like, again with Roger Moore. Like, Roger Moore's Bond is the type, at least from Spy Who Loved Me on to View to a Kill, he is the type to nurture, not torture, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to make wordplay. So he'd rather sleep with a woman to get the information than beat a woman. Which is why Man with the Golden Gun, Roger Moore, slapping around a woman who's clearly terrified of the villain, feels very off. It feels uncomfortable. And then I'm hearing in, like, interviews from back then, he was like, or from later, he's like, yeah, I never understood why they tried to make me hard-edged. And then the next film realized, oh yeah, Roger Moore's actually funny. And he's better at playing the soft, or not soft, but the, like, romantic Bond. He's the romantic Bond. You've got Sean Connery is the tough Bond, or the kind of take no non, suave but tough at the same time. Roger Moore's the funny Bond, and the charming one. George Lazenby is the sensitive Bond, I guess. Dalton is the hard-edged but still can make jokes Bond. Pierce Brosnan is the kind of comic booky Bond, and I love that. And Daniel Craig is the boring one, because there's nothing interesting about him. He's all no nonsense and never stops to make a joke, so it's very boring to me. Again, I'll get to them when I get to them, but yeah, I'm not really looking forward to them. The fact that he did 5. But yeah, this film, just like, I'm trying to think of something that stands out about it, because I kind of feel the same way about this that I do Goldfinger, where I feel like the films are well known, and like, this film has always kind of been a black sheep. Goldfinger, no. This one, I feel I can understand people not fully gelling with this one, because even people who don't like Live and Let Die also don't like this. So I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. There are really cool parts to the film. Do not get my words twisted. The, like, weird fun house thing at the beginning and end of the film is pretty cool. It's admittedly a well-designed set. The volcano layer, or not volcano layer, the mountain layer, the island layer, is really cool to look at. It's a very good set. Ken Adam, making us proud. But the sets are there's like multiple sets that are kind of just there for a minute, and I'm like, why didn't you just film that in a casino? Why can't you just film that in an actual casino? Instead, they waste the money on making a set for like a minute-long scene. It's so odd. I mean, I guess things were different back then, But yeah, it's just... And there are action set pieces that I think are alright. The car chase between Bond, Sheriff J.W. Pepper, in the car against Scaramanga and Nick Nag, that was fun. It doesn't beat the Live and Let Die boat chase, mind you, but it's still fun. It has a really cool stunt of the car going in a doing a flip, which is really awesome stunt that they actually performed. Props to the stunt team. But yeah, this film, it kind of feels like it's trying to be more of a low-key spy film, but at times it also wants to be an outlandish Bond film. It feels like they tried to make something like the Ipcris File for like half of it. Like half of the scenes feel like they're out of the Ipcris File, and half of them feel like they're out of a Bond movie, which those tones really don't clash well. And just the way characters speak in this, like certain lovable characters from the other films, they just feel off. M is a complete asshole. He tells Q to shut up twice, and it's not like in a comedic way. He's like, "Oh, shut up, Q." And it's like, dude, like, M and Bond and the other members have always had kind of a playful dickishness towards each other, which is fun. But this just feels like outward like disdain for each other. It feels like really aggressive, and it just feels off. It feels like Bernard Lee and Desmond Llewellyn had like a disagreement or something, and that was ad-libbed, which it probably wasn't, but I'm speculating. But still, it something just feels off. Moneypenny's not bad in this. She gets about as much to do as everybody else that's in all of the films gets to do. But she's kind of just there. But she's still doing her thing, like flirting with Bond, whatever. But the whole will they, won't they thing. But yeah, it's just... That's most I can say about the film. It feels off. It's still okay. I don't see myself revisiting it very often. I don't see myself revisiting a lot of the Bond films very often. Maybe I will after doing this whole marathon. But like, this is one of the least likely ones I go back to. But yeah, the pros. Christopher Lee, while the character is kind of meh, I think he does a good job acting wise. Hervé Villechaize, Clifton James is Sheriff I'm tired. Sheriff J.W. Pepper. I like both of them. There's some cool set design by Ken Adam. That's always a plus. Great music by John Barry. Couple cool action scenes, the car chase and the ending mountain layer funhouse thing was cool. And cons, again, Roger Moore's performance feels a bit off in this one. I'm happy to say that it's way better from this film onward. I don't think any of the performances are bad from this film onward at all, which easily makes him above Sean Connery for me, since I thought Sean Connery was only good in 2 of them. Again, Mary Goodnight, useless character, absolutely useless. I wish Maud Adams had gotten all the screen time Mary Goodnight had, because that would have made her a more fleshed out character, and I would have probably thought she was one of the better Bond girls. And yeah, a lot of the mainstays of the series feel a bit off, but yeah, it's an okay film. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. It's just meh. That's the most I can say about it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the review. If you liked the review, comment, like, subscribe, whatever, and movie review next door out.